Well, welcome everybody. Super excited to see you all on this Friday afternoon. You're here because you want a little to learn a little bit more about making story maps, and that's what we're going to do today. I'm Maggie Kelly. I'm going to be running you through some introductory material, and then I'm going to hand it over to Sean Hogan, and he's going to do the actual hands-on workshop. So sit tight for the beginning while I kind of set the stage of what we're going to be doing, and then we're going to get into some hands-on work. Super excited to have you all here. There's a bunch of us from the Informatics and GIS program, which is part of UCANR. I'm going to explain all of this. But the exciting thing is normally we give this intro material as a slideshow, but since we're doing a workshop on story maps, we're going to do it as a story map. So what you're looking at here is a pretty rudimentary story map where we ingested the slides from previous workshops and made them into a story map. And so as I go through the introductory slides, I'm going to show you some of the benefits of story maps. And so keep your mind open. You probably have a thing you want to talk about, a project, a story you want to tell. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing. So me and Sean are going to be running this. Today's agenda, we're going to do a few introductions, tell you a little bit about us. We want to hear a little bit about you. And then we're going to set the stage in terms of the technology. What kind of things are we talking about? What is mapping on the web or WebGIS? What are web apps? What are web maps? And what are story maps? Some of the core technology and concepts. We're going to be doing all of this within a particular software framework. It's called Esri. And so we're going to be working within this Esri ecosystem. It's really the most streamlined way to engage with spatial data on the web and make these really exciting, content-rich, visually pleasing, intuitive web apps called story maps. So we're going to be working within this particular ecosystem. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about, what that is, how we're going to do it, some basic conceptual steps, and then we're going to kick it over to Sean, and he's going to launch you through actually making your own story map. And he's going to introduce that to you. He's already made a story map about all of you, which is really cool. He's going to show that to you. But that's what we're going to be working on today. So many of you know this already, but all of us in IGIS, that's the Informatics and GIS program, are part of this entity called UC Ag and Natural Resources. Many of you are part of that as well, and it has a long and lustrative or long and lustrous history as part of the land grant mission. On the right here, you see one of our boilerplate slides where I talk about all these statewide programs, and the goal of the statewide programs is to connect the power of UC research with local communities. We're a vast network across the state. We have cooperative extension offices, research and extension centers, and affiliated campuses. And we also have many statewide programs like 4-H or CalFresh or UCIPM. Many of you are part of these. We, who are delivering this workshop, are part of the Informatics and GIS program. And we have as our mission making sure you have the technology that you need to do your work. And everything we do is around mapping. We love mapping. We love spatial data. We love building web tools. And that's what we're here to help you to do. So this is sort of a static slide. The first thing you're going to notice on the right, I'm not going to play this, but we've embedded here a video. So story maps are ways to, do these sort of interactive slideshows in a really content-rich way. So we've got a video here. We've got another static map here, static slide here. Keep in mind all of these interactive aspects of this presentation that I'm giving you, because those are all core to the story map ecosystem. So who are we? We're the Informatics and GIS program. We're your resource for geospatial knowledge and innovation in ANR. We love to be bridges between your program and technology to help you bring GIS and mapping and web tools to your work. We are distributed around the state. There's a few of us, myself, Andy, Genoa, and Priyanka. They're all in the background and they're going to be helping you out on chat. We're based at Berkeley. Sean is based at Davis. Robert is based at the Kearney Research and Extension Center. Shane is based at Hopland. So all of those guys who are not speaking to you directly are going to be behind the scenes and they can help you out when you have any questions about the workshop itself. But on the right, we have a map. So simple map, just showing you where we all are. And as you can see, it's not a static map. It's an interactive map. It's embedded in my slideshow here. These are the kinds of things that you can do really, really well in story maps. Okay. So who you are, this is where we got registrations from. I made sort of a quick and dirty registration map. Again, this is it's interactive. You can see it has a different background than the previous map. All of this is customizable. It's a little bit different symbology than the other one. So pretty fun. It's editable. A lot of you are from California. It's great. But what I want to know is, so in the chat, if you could put your name, if you want to, what you hope to learn from this workshop briefly, but really, what's your experience with ArcGIS story maps? Are you a beginner or are you an expert? And yeah, hit it. Let me see. Can I see chat? It's really hard for me to see chat when I have my screen saved. So somebody be bold and jump in, and then somebody else tell me when that starts. Do we have any bold people starting? Ooh, here's my chat. Great, I can see it now. Okay, we're starting. Great, we've got some earlies, okay, some beginners, just the basics. Great. Done some work on it before. Ooh, goodies. I've done some work in a class. Terrific. Want to learn the basics. I'm a beginner. Love it. Ooh, want a refresher. These are all terrific. Great. Some of you want to know the basics of Esri. This isn't the only workshop that is going to work on that. There are other workshops that we host, and we'll tell you about those in a minute. Ooh, Sean, 4+ today's feeling confident. I love it. Great. I'm going to close the chat, so I'm going to go back to the slideshow. You guys keep rolling that because I love to read it later. So that's who you are. So we're going to keep going. Now, why you might want to make a story map. So story maps, as I've said before, they're content rich. They display mapping data and contextual information. They're journalistic in style. They've got lots of templates and ways of looking. You can pull from multiple data sources, which is great. You can do all this without coding. And they are easy to build, but it does take a little bit of thought to make sure that they are clear and that they're conveying the story well. So Sean is going to walk you through some kind of pointers about how to make really readable and understandable story maps. They're great, but they don't do everything for you. So some things that story maps don't do as well, they're not really a data collection app. There are other apps that do data collection well. Sometimes, depending on the design, they don't look great on mobile devices, but there are some workarounds there. There are sort of limited templates or style options. So, it's not kind of a complete free-for-all as it could be with a customizable website, but you really don't need to be a web developer to develop one of these. And these templates that we're going to show you do make, in general, pretty clean and intuitive websites. These story map sites can incorporate multiple contents into them. You can add web maps, and web maps are just little collections of spatial data that you've symbolized a particular way. You can pull in web applications, and web applications are just a little bit more complex. They allow you to sort of interact with data in a little bit more deep way. You can pull in photos and videos like I showed you before, lots of text and text stylings, lots of quotes. You can embed external websites or videos or hyperlinks. And the core, the way Esri conceives of this, and it's a good one, it's a good sort of way, mantra to think about. They like to think about it in terms of these three steps: data, design, develop. So you want to think about what's the data, where is it from, how is it sourced, how am I going to design that data so the symbology is appropriate, and then how am I going to develop this website. So we're going to use that mantra as we work through this. But I've mentioned a couple of terms here. The first would be web maps. And web maps are basic online maps where you have data layers, and those can be, vector layers, points, lines, or polygons, or raster layers, meaning like imagery. You've pulled them into a web map and you've done some custom symbology to make them look pleasing and informative. So web maps have there's limited layout options. They're sort of controlled in what you can do. They basically are a supporting platform to launch other things like web apps and story maps. But for example, here's a simple web map here. It's just in ArcGIS Online. It just has, oh, here's where cooperative extension offices are. Here's where the campuses are. Here's where research and extension centers are. This is a web map. These are the spatial data over here. We've symbolized them. We've chosen a background. Yeah, it's just a simple web map. And that web map, we use this in many of our slides to show off what cooperative extension is. Here's another example. This just has a little bit more interesting symbology here with, the UC cooperative extension logo there. So that's, a choice of symbology and 4-H logo as well. And then here's another one that was created. So again, these are the layers, the spatial layers. They're hosted in the cloud, and then they're symbolized in this web map. So the web map is sort of a building block that we're going to use. A web app, on the other hand, is more complex. It's more interactive than just a web map. It's graphically appealing. It has more options for layout and labels and infographics. It has more widgets and tools. So for example, it can allow you to do some complex searches. Show me this. Show me where this might be next to this. They often resemble standalone web pages. So we've built one for the UC California Naturalists program here. So it's nice. It's got sort of these bios about people and then where they are. This is a super famous one that was launched at the beginning of COVID. The Johns Hopkins University created this COVID dashboard really quickly. This was an Esri product and it really took off. This is a web app. It's called a dashboard. So in the center is a map, and then there are these graphs, these charts and text information around the outside. And then here's a annual report that's also a web app. So web apps build from web app maps, but they're more complex. And then a particular type of a web app is story maps. These are purpose-driven. They have a purpose-driven look and feel. They're journalistic in style. They're content-rich. They include maps and text and videos and photos and all the things that we've talked about. These are standalone websites with a nice intuitive design, with a flow through the content. And at the heart of this, you want to use a story map to tell a story well. So we've built this UCANR virtual tour as a story map. It kind of scrolls through what UCANR, what the mission is, and all this other stuff. It's got a bunch of stuff. And then we've got another one showcasing one of our projects, the wildfire fuel management mapper. I'm just going to not in the interest of time, I'm going to move on. But everything I just showed you, those web maps, the web apps, and the story maps are all built using Esri software. And so this little bubble here represents the Esri online ecosystem, which is called ArcGIS Online. It's in the cloud. You can find data in the cloud. And there's this thing called Story Maps app, which is what we're going to use to create a story map. And you can bring in all this other stuff, videos, audios, photos, other websites. So that's sort of the basic building blocks. And again, I want you to think about data. Where's the data come from? Is it my data? Is it somewhere, something I'm grabbing in the cloud? Where does it reside? And then what are the design principles I want to use? And then how do I develop this? And the reason the Esri ecosystem makes this so easy is because they are committed to this kind of integration, this data design develop integration. They've got lots of data sources for you. When you get more into the data, into the Esri ecosystem, you'll learn more about Living Atlas or ArcGIS Online or Field Maps collection. So there's all these different data sources. There's a lot of design that's going to go on in ArcGIS Online when we make web apps. And then we're going to develop through a series of these web application builders. So everything I've said so far is pretty straightforward. I'm going to do a tiny little deep dive into a little bit more about Esri, so bear with me. I've mentioned ArcGIS Online. That's the cloud ecosystem for Esri. Esri also has a local processing system called ArcGIS Pro. ArcGIS Pro is on your desktop. You download the license, you install it, you're working on your computer. ArcGIS Online, there's no license to install, you're working in a browser. But we often go back and forth between these two. We're not going to go back and forth today, but I want you to just have this in the back of your mind. If you're doing complex analysis, sometimes you want to do it on Pro, although that is changing. If you want to do more light analysis without the need for a license file with incredible access to data, you're going to be working in ArcGIS Online. So this little slide is just to let you know there's a lot more to GIS than what we're just dipping into today. And we do have workshops on Pro that you can kind of learn a little bit more about. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because many of you have worked with or many of you might have worked with GIS in the past on a desktop, and it's different in the cloud. So in the cloud, you're working with a range of these apps. Today, we're going to be working with story maps. But if you're doing field collection data, you might be working with field apps. That COVID dashboard that I showed you before was built using dashboards. So it's just a different kind of paradigm in the cloud. But just, be aware that when we're working in the cloud, we're doing things slightly different. And there's some considerations I want you to bear in mind, and Sean will talk about these. But when you're working in the cloud, you want to think about what sort of data am I working with? So many of you, if you've worked with desktop GIS like ArcGIS Pro or ArcView or some of these other packages, you're familiar with shape files, or your colleague sends you a email of a file, or a zipped up shape file, for example. In the cloud, we're not really talking about that. We're talking about a different file format. When we're working in the cloud, we've got to pay attention to sharing. When we're working on the desktop, we really don't. It's on our desktop, it's ours. In the cloud, we've got to pay attention to who can see this data? Who do I want to share this data with? Everybody or just my colleagues? And then when we're working in the cloud, we want to think about these idea of these building blocks. How do we kind of use this data design, develop concept to make this more intuitive? And when we're in the cloud, our visualization choices are a little bit different. So let's just touch on these things briefly. When we're working in the cloud, we talk about data as layers and services. And layers are the data themselves. They were all those things in those table of contents that I showed you before. There's vector data, and those are called feature layers. there's raster data, and then there's tile data. And you're going to interact with all of these. They're going to come from different places, and Sean's going to explain them. But the gist is they're not stored locally on your computer, and they have slightly different terms. But you want to think about layers and then services. And services are what tell the world how you want that layer to look. They're instructions about how you want the layer to be displayed or interacted with. So this gets to sharing, and Esri's made this really, really straightforward. This is just an example of a snapshot of what you're going to be thinking about when you build your own story map. There's several layers here. Owner, that means it's in the cloud, but only I can use it. Organization means everybody in UCANR, for example, can use it. And then there's public. Everybody can see it. So when you're building a story map for the public, you want to make sure that you've turned your sharing to public. And then a few more wrap up things before we get to the hands-on. There's two ways to build these story maps. One is this standalone tool called storymaps.com. This is kind of a light version of what we're going to do today. You directly interact with it through storymaps.com, but it doesn't give you a lot of options. It doesn't allow you to do a lot of the really cool mapping stuff that we're going to do. The other way is through the Story Maps app in ArcGIS Online that I mentioned before, and that's what we're going to do today. So when you leave the workshop today and you think, oh, I want to build a story map, you might go straight to storymaps.com. That's a sort of a separate paradigm, and it's a much lighter and not as powerful way to do this. So what we're gonna be talking about is, this method two, building story maps with ArcGIS Story Maps app. So anyway, the base of it is ArcGIS Online. We're going to get into this in the workshop. You're going to create and manage lots of web maps and features. You're going to have lots of data. You're going to be able to build through this data design develop workflow. And this is another example of what it's going to look like. You're going to do all your work in ArcGIS Online. You're going to pull up or ingest these hosted feature layers. That's that vector layer that we talked about before. Create a web map. You can create a web app from that. Those are all of these things, as well as storyline, your script, and other content is going to be ingested and organized through the ArcGIS Online Story Map app. This
Sean,
slide here is
question
yes.
in the chat.
Yes.
So Barb is asking that does storymaps.com have any free access for non-UC peeps?
Yeah, I think it does. I haven't played around with it. Does anyone else know? I think it does have free access.
I mean, they have the storymaps.com, which is meant for those who don't have organization access, and
Yeah.
you can always get started with your Gmail or have a free account.
Yeah. Yeah, great question, Barb. Thanks, Priyanka, for bringing that up. Yeah, so this is the sort of light entryway into storymaps.com. But if you want to keep going with story maps, you need to have access to an organizational license through UCNR or other organizations. So yeah, if that's a bottleneck for you, definitely start with storymaps.com. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Sean, but just to let you know that we will be sending you this story map, and at the bottom of it, you're going to see Sean has created a story map about all of you, and the link is there. And then the presentation, I mean, I'm going to send it to you, but the link to this presentation is here too. So with that, Sean, anything else you need me to cover before I stop sharing?
No, that was fantastic and a perfect segue into what I'm going to cover. And just one comment to the last thing about the storymaps.com, this simple one that doesn't require an organizational account. The issue is that you don't have interactive map
Right.
in the maps that you can put into your story map. So it's really just a journalistic styled kind of web page-esque building tool, but not with the full-fledged ability to have it spatially interactive.
Right. So all those examples where I was showing you a map where you could zoom in and zoom out and all that jazz, you can't do that with story maps. That's the gist?
Yes, yeah. I mean, you could technically get a screen capture of a map and put it
Sure.
there, and you
Got
can
it.
kind of have a little workaround, but you don't have like the web mapping ability built into it.
Great. Okay.
Yeah,
All right. I'm going to turn it over to Sean, but I'm going to read all this chat. So thanks,
great.
everybody.
And I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to make sure that I don't have any blocks or anything that are in the way. Does is there does my screen look good on your end there?
Yeah, no blocks.
Okay, good, good. Because sometimes when it's recording, they'll have like little Zoom windows that are kind of tucked away or in the way. So, really quick, there's a cut. I want to do a little bit of housekeeping. All of you should have received this email at 9:20 this morning, and it includes the exercise material. So a link to download it. And one important thing is you need to decompress it or unzip that. And I specify in here to put it into an ArcGIS Story Maps workshop folder, probably on your C drive. I know you can do this also on Apple iOS, being that it's all web-based, but put it somewhere that it's easily accessible. But the key element there is you need to unzip it because the things that we'll be working with, even if you could, what your file browser allows you to look within the zipped file, you can't import them and use them the way that we need to in the workshop. So, and there's some directions here for doing so. There's also the presentation link that Maggie just gave you. And if you haven't already done so, it's important that you get ArcGIS online licenses for this workshop because that some some schools or some organizational accounts don't include the story map builder as I understand it. And so if we'll go through the like a basic introduction, and we'll find out at the end of that if you are all set up, and if not, we have Shane Fire and Robert Johnson will be on here. One or the other, or both of them will be available to help get you set up during the first break. So sticking points that we've had in the past is the not having the file zipped, the making sure that you unzip that is, and making sure that accounts are set up. And then probably the biggest one is being able to figure out how to use the limited real estate on your screen for all of the copying and pasting in the case of this workshop that we'll be going through. And so I'll go over that in just a moment. I'm going to shut this down though, because I don't want that popping up during the video throughout the workshop. Speaking of real estate, this is just the way that I like to do it. I know everyone has become experts on online learning, or many people have become experts during COVID. But in the case of this workshop, what I like to do is take my directions, which are inside that unzipped file folder that I just showed you, and put that over to the left side of the screen. Speaking of sticking points, I mentioned there's a lot of copying and pasting. I'll be working from a Google Drive uh, uh, doc, or so Google Doc, and there's a PDF of this in that zip folder. What I will do right now is I will share this and put it in the chat. In case you are using an Adobe product, which doesn't let you copy and paste from PDFs. So this is going in the chat right now. So that's the directions for the workshop. I mention this because if again, sometimes in Adobe products, we'll have throughout this exercise, and I'll show you an example here. If I scroll down, say you want to copy and paste the title of something and put it in there, we'll be using Control C or Shift Control C, excuse me, Control C and then Shift Control V to paste throughout the workshop exercise. If you're not able to do that, it'll slow things down. The goal of this is not have a speed typing kind of exercise, but rather a copy and paste. To that end, I'll show you how we've organized the files. So what could be a 3-day workshop, if you were having to curate and then come up with all your own text, can be a 3-hour workshop instead. Speaking of that, once you download and unzip the file, I'll show you what we have there. So we'll have a file folder that looks a little like this. So we'll have UCANR Rec Centers, a CSV file that we'll be using as a base for our map or web map that'll be in our story map. We'll have our UCANR story map visualization and organization document, a Word document, which we'll be copying and pasting from significantly. An introduction to the story maps, the PDF. If you don't want to use that link that I put on in the chat, you can also open this by right-clicking it and then open with one of your web browsers. So Google, I like using Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge also works. You can copy and paste from those in place of a Adobe software application. Come back to that. Inside of this folder, also, you'll see workshop media. We'll be frequently coming back to this throughout the workshop. So having this tucked away and handy and available, we'll be returning to this over and over again. So when I go to my file folder, having this pop up and also set so the view is large icons, it'll help you navigate and figure out which one of these you want to be putting in as your elements into your story map. But this includes pictures and video as well, and a logo which is a picture that'll go to kind of give that really nice, rich, stylistic, and journalistic type presentation to your story map. Backing up one level. By the way, this is going to be info only right now. You could be following along if you'd like, but really, I'm giving an overview. There's not going to be anything that's necessarily hands-on quite yet, not at least for the first about 15 minutes or so of what I'll be talking about. And then we'll take a break, make sure everybody's all set up, and then we'll do a soft start into really getting our hands into all of this. So the second one down, this is an important document, the UCANR Story Map Visualization and Organization Word document. So I'm going to open that right now. And inside of this, what you'll see is, and I should probably go good. This is how we've organized the content, the verbiage, the titles, everything that we'll need for this story map. And this is really the time-consuming component of putting together a story map. Coming up with this creative content is always the difficult part. The actually putting it into the story map application, now that's not too bad. That's just lots of copy and paste once you have already curated everything you need. Kind of key principles are figure out what your main message is. In this case, the story map will be answering a question: what is the function of the UCANR rec system, or Kearney rec in this case? By the way, this could be used as a template for any number of different things. Say, as a kind of a hypothetical situation that you want to make a similar story map about UCANR statewide conferences. You could say, what's the main message? The story map is going to be like, what's the role of the statewide conference? The story map highlight something about that statewide conference. At the end, we'll have a tour function. What if there's a tour that's associated with that conference? So what I'm saying is that you could, once you already have a document like this, you could copy and then replace it with whatever kind of content that you want to make your own story map, or at least to have a foundation for building your own story map. Other things too, having the what kind of data that you want. In this case, we had, if I kind of move this over, the data that I'm referring to in this case is the UCNR Rec Center CSV file, which I'll open in a moment, that is really just uh, geopositions of our recs. And then having your visual aids, that's a bit time consuming as well. This is something that took me a little bit of time when I was setting up the story map about the locations of the attendees for the workshop, or at least all the people that have registered, minus two that registered at the last moment last night. But curating photos and videos, in this case, we have some drone imagery of Kearney, putting that all together and then having it in that media folder that I just showed you is handy. And then layout. So one of the things about these is it's I sometimes call it like web page-esque. It really stands alone like a web page, and a very nice stylistic one as well, but through the template of the story map builders. There's like various tweaks that you can make to it, but it's to have a little bit different style in different ways, and we'll be diving into that right away too in the first part of the workshop. Speaking of which, there's actually it's the first part we'll be looking at style. I've developed this or helped to develop this workshop very intentionally. So if you're not able to do something or you get behind on one thing, nothing virtually builds on anything that came before. So if you miss something, you can keep on going with this, and maybe your final product will look a little different than what our final product is going to look like, but it's okay. You can always go back to the video and review it, or you can go through the directions again and review and find what you might have missed. So so it won't be an issue. So if no one has to worry about getting behind. Now coming down to this really nifty like table here that we have, there's we'll be giving you all of the story map elements, starting with the title, the images that are associated with it, and this will make more sense once we get going. Subtitles, headings, second headings, the text that goes below that. This is where tons of copying and paste comes into play. Again, we don't want to have this be a speed typing exercise to come up with something really neat at the end of the by the end of the workshop. But so yeah, forgive me if you get starts to sound redundant with Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V. But I tried thinking of a better way to do it, and since the last time we gave this workshop, and I don't quite imagine one to have a really neat product at the end. And then you can put in different types of text too, like quotes and so forth. Text paragraph, bullet points, headings, and then finally at the end, we're going to also include what's called a sidecar with sliding text next to media. And what I'm referring to there, I'll show you at the top. So under this, see how the story map should look? If we press Control and click on that, at least on a PC, this will bring up a final version of what we're working towards today. And on this, and I'm going to expand this across the screen, we can scroll down, which speaking of which, if you don't have a mouse or a trackball, you'll need one for this workshop. It's in pretty much for any kind of GIS or remote sensing type of workshop. You always need to have a mouse or a trackball. It's just way too, I mean, I don't have the skill at least to be able to do this on a touchpad on a computer. So yeah, having that is essential. But as we scroll down, we'll see that we have nice colors with headers. We have bookmarks that are included across the top, the text, quotes that are pulled out, imagery. We have interactive maps that we can refer to, or we can pull and move them around. We can expand that if we wanted to. You see this really neat interactive drone image that Andy Lyons put together. It's hosted on GitHub for us, so you can see from various angles over Kearney. More visual aids. There's a video that we'll embed in your story map. We didn't have a video handy for Kearney, so I just used one from Desert Rec, but actually the learning process would be the same. as if we did have one from Kearney, then buttons that we might include in there, and then extra resources. And at the end here is the story map tour of various places. The way this would work is I could click on one and it'll zoom us to each of the locations for our research centers for extra resources. So again, this is going to be where we're working toward. I'm going to hop over right now. I'm going to show you a quick story map of all the participants from this workshop, at least as of yesterday afternoon. And the reason why I put this together before each workshop is it kind of goes back to like not one of the most uncomfortable of workshops I've ever given. It was that I used to teach workshops on CartoDB at the Geospatial Innovation Facility down in Mulford Hall at UC Berkeley. And I showed up one day to give a workshop, and the interface for the workshop had been jettisoned and replaced with a different interface. And so all of the directions didn't work. Like it was completely different. So at least the day before, every time I give this workshop, I kick the tires by creating a story map of where participants are coming from to make sure nothing major is changed or if there's directions that really significantly need to be changed. And in this case, what we have here is I believe we had 47 people registered for this workshop, and most of which are clustered around Northern California, but Southern California as well. But we also have a couple of folks from other states and even one international attendee that was registered. Starting off with the greater Bay Area and Central Coast. So we have folks from Point Reyes, Berkeley, San Francisco, Oakland, Fremont, San Martin, Hollister, and Moss Landing. Then in the Central Valley, we have participants from Gridley in California, or Gridley and Davis. Northern area of California, we have attendees joining us from Weaverville, Hayfork, Nevada City, Lucerne, and Hopland. Hopland can almost be considered coastal, but I just kind of arbitrarily drew these lines in my mind. And then Southern California, we have participants registered from Los Angeles, Manhattan Beach, and Redlands. Redlands, the home of ArcGIS or Esri, the parent company. This is a great one. Pineland, Texas, of one person joining us from the small town of Pineland, Texas, with 902 residents. That's at the intersection of Highway 96 and several railways. And Alexandria, Virginia, not far out of Washington, D.C. It's a beautiful area and historically rich region. And then finally, we have one person from Coimbatore, India, across the board. We actually have quite a number of folks that watch our YouTube videos, which I should mention. We are recording this video or recording this workshop, and it usually takes me a couple of days to edit and publish it, and it'll go up on our UCANR-IGIS YouTube channel, which I just coincidentally looked at this morning, and we have 122 videos there with over 144,000 people that have viewed them. And so next week you can look on that channel, and usually by about Wednesday, and you will be able to find this workshop there. If you want to refer back to it, refer back to the recording. And again, thank you for joining us today. Good. I'm going to show you one more real quick thing as a very fast introduction to actually let's take a break first. Let's take a 10-minute break. No. I want to go. Actually, I want to jump into ArcGIS Online to make sure everybody that needs to get in can get in, and then we'll take a break. That way, if you need help, then you'll have time to find out. So what we'll do first is I've already logged in somewhere. I should probably shut things down. I'm going to leave that up. That's the old story map. I'm going to shut that web map down. I've got some practice options in here. That's our content. Good. I should shut that down. Shut that down. There's our YouTube channel. Good. And I'll shut this down for now. Good. So what I'll have all of you do is you'll open up your web browser. Now, so we'll start our hands-on now and search for ArcGIS Online. And it's one of the first things that comes up for me. And once you get that up, you'll go to sign in. Use the credentials that were sent to you earlier this week or ones that you already had previously, and then sign in. If you're using, say, a UC Berkeley account or some other organizational account, this is where we're going to test to make sure that you have what you need. Once it comes in, it'll typically bring you to either your content, your organization, or your home tab. For any one of the which is fine. But what I want to test right now is go over to this cluster of 9 dots right here. Click on this and look in here to make sure that you have ArcGIS story maps is an option. If you don't have that option there's like 20 something or more of these now. If you don't have it, and it could be anywhere because you can adjust these. It just happens to be at the top because that's what I use frequently. But go to this, and if you click on that and it comes up, you will be good to go for this workshop. Now, if you have any trouble with that right there, go ahead and put it in the chat right now. And typically I don't have my chat up because I can't, I have too many things open on my screen. And I'll show you how to set that up when we come back after the break. So I see in the chat, there's a question about the zip file. And what I'm referring to is from the email earlier today at 9:20. If you scroll down, it's right after the Zoom information. There's a section, the exercise material download. And inside of this link right here, so if I click on the control click and it comes up, or just click it, there we go. You'll see an option to download this file folder. So if I do the download, it will come. I don't need to do that. Well, I guess I might as well. It doesn't take very long. It's only 54 megabytes, and then download anyways. It's safe. Once it comes into my file folder, I can look at it. You can see that it's zipped up. Yeah, on your computer, depending on how your computer is configured, you'll need to right click and extract all into a file folder that I suggested that you put on your PC if you're using a PC in your C drive. I called mine Story Map Workshop. So inside of that, I unzipped it, and here's the workshop material right here. And then the workshop media, including as well as the Word document and the exercise and a CSV file of locations of recs. Good.
And Sean, we had a question, a general Esri question about just for creating a data collection tool, what's the difference, or can you use both field maps and survey 123?
Okay, so that would probably be an office hour question, actually. I'm glad that's a good timing for that because during the break, I put in a link to our office hours for pretty much any kind of geospatial tech questions. So including for anything related to the workshop, or it could be about drones, it could be about geodatabases. Our whole team chips in and covers those office hours on Mondays and Tuesday afternoons. And so when it comes to something like a mobile data collection app like Survey 123 or Field Maps, those are different applications, different workflows. We do workshops on them occasionally. Some of those videos are on our IGIS YouTube channel. And the results of those can be embedded within a story map, but that's a completely different different question for another day. So it's all something that we're excited about. But if we talk about right now, it'll cut into a bunch of the time that we need to be able to dedicate to the story map building. Good.
Can I just give a one bullet point on it, Sean?
What's that?
Can I just give one bullet point on it?
Sure, go for it.
Survey 123 is kind of field first, not field, but like attributes first. So more survey based, and then field maps is based more on collecting it spatially first. That would be my take.
Map data, field maps, even though yeah, exactly. Field maps has absorbed a lot of the functionality of Survey 123, but yeah, it's good. Good question. And again, refer to our YouTube channel videos or look at our upcoming workshops that are on our UCANR-IGIS website. Good. So let's get back to. Oh, by the way, I put here's a office hours that's on here, but also you might have found this through our training tab. There's speaking of other trainings that are coming up, which I'm bringing this up if it will come up. Our web pages have been really clunky earlier, and I hope no one that tried to register in the last day got stopped from being able to register because our survey system went down apparently. But we have other workshops coming up, including one's on Python. We have a series, and then we have a field maps dedicated workshop coming up in March. And then finally, we have Introduction to ArcGIS Online, which is kind of the core for many of these other peripheral apps that we'll be doing in April. So you can refer to that page. I'm going to close that out for now. Good. And we don't need to have this open anymore, and I don't need that open as well. Good. So we're now, hopefully everybody is in ArcGIS Online right now. I mentioned before, we'll kind of get a soft start going in after the break, just so if anyone's still trying to get set up, get their data on their computer. There was some questions about how to get the content from the media folder that was included in that download in that zip file, how to get it into your story map or where to put it. Don't worry about that right yet. It's going to go straight into the story map builder, is pretty much just dragging and dropping each of the pieces or each of the elements into the app. But for right now, and this is going to be really glossed over, I'll show you the ArcGIS Online. Just so you kind of as a little primer, we have the home, which we never use. It just kind of shows a little splash page. Gallery, this is where you have the data from your organization, whether it's UCANR or some other organization. And inside this, you have maps, layers, scenes, apps. Under apps, you might see story maps as one of the apps that are included. I suppose I should mention this now versus later. It's kind of funny. Depending on where you look at story maps within ArcGIS or Esri or elsewhere, sometimes it's one word, sometimes it's two words, sometimes the M is capitalized. So there's just little variations even within Esri. And so you probably see that both ways throughout our exercise as well. But yeah, so the gallery is where you find all of the data that your organization has shared organizationally, or even to everyone. And we'll come to sharing here in a little bit. I'm going to skip over map right now because that's where we're going to go. That's where we're going to start really getting our hands on into this. Scene is interesting. I'm going to click on this. It'll bring it, and the reason I bring up Scene Viewer is because it can be handy for visualization in kind of that if you recall where I showed you the drone imagery over Kearney as an example, you can have examples of that you can embed it within your story map. And I'm just going to bring up Elkis Ranch here. It's just an example that you can publish this sort of thing and then have this included interactively within your story map. So there is a use to be able to use something like this. So this is the scene option. You'll notice that when I went into this, though, I lost the horizontal ribbon across the top, and instead I got a little stack of bars to the top left-hand corner. And when I click on that, then I'll have all those other options available again. I'm going to skip notebooks. That's for another day, and go to groups because this is pertinent to sharing your your story map. And within here, I have a number of groups. In this case, like there's a core team, broadband project, a whole variety, the ground squirrel project, environmental storage project. There's a number, feral pig damage. There's groups. This is really useful, especially when it comes to something like the field maps or say Survey 123, where you want to have a select group of people that are going to be using the app for data collection that need to have kind of the right type of knowledge of the data that's going to be collected, whether it's like tree type or characteristics. So you don't want to share that with everybody. And so the setting up groups for sharing is one way to go about that. And you'll see when we do the publishing later, this will make more sense.
Hey, Sean,
This is where, yes,
can I interrupt real quick?
go for it.
On that core team one where it says shared update.
Shared update. Yep.
Do you want me to quickly go over that real quick and
Go
explain
for
the
it.
implication?
Yeah.
So when you create groups, if you don't, there's two options when you create the group. There's the standard one, which allows you to share projects and data and maps and all that type of stuff. And anyone in those groups can actually go in and access that. And if they want to edit the data, they have to create a new object and save it in their own account. If you create a shared update account, you can go in and edit that web map directly and save it, and it just updates that item. It doesn't create a new one. This is helpful when creating story maps. As long as you have it in a shared update group, anyone in that group can go in and edit that story map. Not at the same time, but anyone in the group can go in and edit and make changes to the story map. And I'll leave it there.
That's actually a really kind of, it is pertinent to story maps because I know I'm glossing over things, but Shane did this for the presentation slides that Maggie presented earlier. So anyone within our group can go and communally update the story map instead of just one person being an owner and only the owner being able to do those updates. Correct, Shane?
Yes, that is correct.
Yep. Gotcha.
Thank you, Sean. Sorry for the interruption.
Oh, no, that's a great interruption. So moving on. So so you know, this is where you can create your groups and you can invite people within your organization. It's very difficult to invite anyone from outside your organization. You either have to invite them into your organization or you have to contact Esri, which I think we've only had to do in IGIS maybe one time or twice. Shane would know better. He's our administrator for that sort of thing. But not super important right now for 99.9% of probably people's projects. The next one over is content. This is pretty pertinent. Inside of your content, this is like your glossary of everything or your library of everything that you've created personally. So there's all of my content is what we're looking at. We have story maps, web maps. Just to note some kind of very like parsing of terminology. A web map is just a web map, a map that doesn't have like legends and titles and neat lines and all these other web elements built into it. It's just literally the map itself. And a web mapping application is the next step up from that, is something that has many of these infographic type or kind of other text or you name it type of elements added to it. And web mapping applications can come in different templated formats. And technically speaking, a story map is really just another web mapping application template, but it has a very specific style to it that lends itself to telling a story with maps. So that's a little explanation of what the differences between a couple of these things. But within your web map, you also have feature layer or hosted feature layers. We'll see how we bring in a CSV file as a map as a features to create features within the web map. And then there's all these other things, shape files and KMLs and you name it. There's so many different ones that we get in here. And join us in, say, that April ArcGIS online workshop if you want to learn more about that, including how to like organize your content into different folders, which you won't need to do today because you're just starting off. But you'll see me putting stuff into the IGIS training folder and also putting tags on my data. And you can have favorites in here, in which I have like a number of different projects that I've favorited for various reasons. Another way you can get to your groups is also here, but we already covered that. And I'm not going to worry. Well, I guess I will go into organization really quick. And the reason for this is just because you'll see that this will look different for everybody else other than me because I'm an administrator, but we have a certain amount of credits that are available, and these credits can go pretty quick if someone say geocodes every address in LA, which happened one time, and that's for our whole organization. You won't see that, but you'll have like a limited, say like 10,000 credits that automatically are set for it. But if you need more credits for doing processing or uploading data or analysis, let us know. We can work with you on that, but just want to throw that out there. Don't worry about members and licenses because that's an administrative thing. Good. And I already talked about the little cluster of 9 dots up at the top, but we'll come to that here now after we go into maps. So this is where everyone really is going to get hands-on started. So hopefully you all have up your ArcGIS online now. You've logged in, and I want you to go to map at the top left-hand corner. This will bring up what's called the map viewer. The last time we taught this workshop, we were using the classic map viewer, which was a little bit different. It added a teeny bit of complexity to this first starting point, but it also is it's a little, once you get used to the new map viewer, it's a lot better. And this might not matter to any of you that are just starting at this, but Esri has started kind of uniforming or standardizing their way of displaying their working environment, of which they typically have general tabs along a bar on the left side. And then once you work over on the left, contextually options will pop up on the right side that are related to each of these tabs. And I'll show you what that refers to in a moment. And to get to that point, we'll start off under layers. That's the default. If it's not showing up, you can click on it. It'll come back up. We're going to go down and add a layer. So with the drop down there, click on that add, and we're going to add layer from file. So click on add layer from file. I mentioned before that mostly it'll be either dragging and dropping or copying and pasting. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag and drop this. So go to actually I have 2 of them open to the same thing. Go to your downloaded workshop exercise material. Let's double click on this UCANR-IGIS CSV file just to bring it up in your Excel, just to see what it looks like. And inside here, you'll see the name of the research center. And then the address is split out in a couple different ways. One has the address, the city, the state, and the zip, and then all of it combined into one single column. And that we can bring this into ArcGIS using either the separated columns or the individual. I'll show you that when we get going. But just to show you what we're bringing in. So we can close that now. No, don't save. It's fine the way it is. All we'll do is click on this, drag, and drop it into your add data. And from here, we'll say create hosted feature layer and add to map. So go with the default and click next. Good. It should automatically recognize like name is name, address is address, city, that sort of thing. Address to is address to. So it has this, it aligns it on its own pretty well. So let's go to next.
Sean, there is a question on how
Yes.
did you get to this add layer thing? Can you just go
Okay,
back?
let me back up. So if anyone made it to this point, you can go and just pause here and I'll just go back to how to add layer. So when you've gone to your map across the top, you'll have map as one of your options. It should have on one of your horizontal ribbon if you're not there already. Once you see this screen, all you do is you click the drop down next to add on the left-hand side. Speaking of which, how we'll go through the exercise, I was going to explain it in a moment, but you might want to put my Zoom window up on, say, the right-hand side of your screen, and then have your working in screen on the left-hand side of the screen right now for to be able to see what I'm doing and then be able to do it on your own window. Good. So what we'll do is next to the add button, do the drop down, add layer from file. I'll go down to my file browser. Just drag and drop this UCANR Rec Center CSV file onto there. We'll go with next for the default's fine. Next, the default's there's fine. And here's this one little teeny thing that's been updated since the last time I used this was there's the location information is in one field. We have to switch the field from address to address to. Oops, I got my Zoom bar is in the way. Address to. And then click next. So it's giving me an exclamation mark. It doesn't like the fact that I'm trying to load this in here, and that's because I've done it 12 times before, either in practice or previous workshops. So I'm going to put a 1-3 after it for the 13th time I've done it, but you won't have to do that. You can just accept the default, and then it'll say what folder it's putting it into. It's just going to put it into my general folder. I could sometimes put it into my ArcGIS training folder if I wanted to, but what I will do is and everyone needs to do this, is put in a tag. I say junk. And the reason for that is because later on I can search in my files and purge all of these, like the 12 or several of the ones before the 13th version of the same thing I've entered in here. But you can put in something like training or workshop or research centers, something, and then after you type that in, click enter to have it stick so it stays in there. And then once you're done, you can click off of it to exit from the tags window, and we'll go down to create and add to map. So that's the bottom right hand corner. Oops. I gotta do a 14. And name using our rec center or exist in this folder. Change the folder. What the heck?
Yeah, when you're creating something from a CSV, it technically uploads a copy of the CSV as well to your.
Why is it not? I'm gonna have to add a new folder. This hasn't happened to me before. I'm gonna make a junk folder. See if that works. There we go. So I just added it to another folder and it'll publish. You won't have that trouble because, again, you haven't done it a bunch of times before. Usually changing the names always help me out. And that was Robert Johnson, our excellent web programmer, that was commenting there. Good. So once this is in, we're going to do just a little change of symbology and viewing. So what you can do is you can grab and move this around. And let me check the chat really quick before I go on to make sure. Gave me an error. It said unable to add layer. Okay, so the way that we get around that is we should have went with the defaults on each of them. And then finally on the last one, I'll go through the workflow one more time just because this is something that's a little bit important. Good. I see, just skimming through the chat really quick. Okay. Okay, so I see it there. I'll go through that workflow really quick and then yeah, there we go. I see someone probably figured it out. But I'll do it one more time just so you can see how I did it as if I was going to add it again, but I won't. I'll do the drop down from the add layer from file. I'd go to my exercise material folder. I would drag and drop the CSV file in, accept the default that's there.
Excuse me? When
Yes.
I drop my file in, it does not take me to this screen.
Oh, are you working from did you unzip your file folder?
Yes.
And you're not accidentally trying to pull it out of the zipped folder?
No, I unzipped it and I just put it in a folder in my documents.
Okay. Are you working from a PC or an Apple?
PC.
Okay. Hmm. Okay, alternatively, let's try this. We'll cancel this. There's another way that you can do this. Add layer from file, click on your device, and then navigate to it that way. So if we go to story maps, exercise, oops, up one level. This is the only option, and then I can add it in that way. Try it that way. And then it should hopefully bring you to the right spot. If not, I have no idea actually.
It did not. It just took me right to the place where it says all the field names. And if I hit next on that, it doesn't take me to the latitude and longitude screen that you had with like the toggle option. It has like a latitude and longitude and it has like drop down menus.
Well, here's a question on what organizational account are you using? Are you using an ANR one or you using
No, I have my own. I work for California Department of Social Services.
okay, I see. So that's a license issue problem then. Okay, here I got an idea. So you can skip some of this stuff because I don't want you to get too far behind. But when I get done, I'll publish my map. I'll put the published map in the chat, and then you can use the one that I created. You can put,
Okay, thank
yeah,
you. If you're
there you go.
sure. I mean, I don't mind just following along and watching.
Okay.
I just don't know
The-
why
hmm.
it's doing this.
Yeah, your organization's account's different than ours, it seems.
It seems like you're not the only person having this issue either, so
Weird.
it's good to
Okay.
cover.
So every time
Thank
we
you.
give this workshop, it's kind of funny. It's how we can do the same workshop whatever number of times, and then something new like this will come up. This is the first time this one's come up before. But okay. So, but I got to already formulate an idea for a workaround on that
Sean,
one.
when do we go on break next?
We'll be going on break pretty soon once
When
we
we
have
go
the
when we go
web
on
map
break,
published.
when we go on break, we could have Layla maybe share her screen and
Yeah, there you go.
and we can troubleshoot what they might be seeing while people are breaking.
Good idea. Yeah,
Appreciate that. Thank you.
We'll probably be on break in like 5 minutes, I think, 4 or 5 minutes. Good. So once we have this all on there, I'm not gonna go. I already published it once, so I won't. So I'll just cancel out of that because we have it on there. And here, we'll go into more depth on how to do style and symbology in our GS Online workshop. But for now, let's just change the style just a little bit for this. We'll zoom in so California is more centered with the research centers, but you see they're little teeny dots. They don't stand out. We need to have them pop a little bit more. So what we'll do is we'll go down to symbology it should be automatically up. If it is not up, we click on it over on the layers side over. So there's layers, and then you can see the UCNR Rec Center file in the contents on the layers pane on the left. And then properties is automatically the default that'll pop up. You can click on either styles or you can click on edit layer style here and it'll switch you to style. And what I prefer to do, and this is just a little extra step, but it's not in the directions online on the workshop exercise, but it'll make it look nicer. Click on the plus field and select a name. That's it, just name, and click add. And what this will do is it'll give us an option to have unique symbols for each of the recs. And then we'll go down to style options. So you see types, unique symbols. click on style options. And then you see this kind of, I don't know what you'd call it, earthy rainbow across the top, the symbol style. Click on the pencil next to it. And we're going to make these symbols larger. So it's 7.43 is default on mine. I'm going to make it 20. Good. And then click done. And so now we have all of these is a little bit larger. They'll pop out a little better. Good. And then we can click done again. So here we have a basic web map. Again, we're not going to get into web mapping and computer cartography much here at all besides that. And to save what we've created. So from that, you'll see over on the left-hand side, there'll be a save and open option. The little blue dot next to the folder, far left-hand side of your screen, and click on the save and open and click save as. Now, if I look in the directions, I think that the directions for this is save as is somewhere on, so it's down a little ways. Edit style, no. We have correct online. I'm doing most all this from memory. So we've got through all of that. Save as UCANR story map workshop. Title your map. Control C, and this is from page 9. And what I might do now is a suggestion, because we will start copying and pasting right after we come back from a quick break. So I'm going to split this off or have it down to just leaf down a little bit to my left-hand side, because I want to be able to toggle back and forth between this and the web map that we're working on right now. And then I can reduce this and have it a little bit over, like stepped up here. So what I'll be from page 9, there's a UCNR story map workshop. It doesn't matter though if it's that exact title, just something intuitive. You don't need underscores like a lot of GIS people add into it. And because I've done the same workshop so many times, I'm going to call this number 14 just to change it out, but you don't need to do that. I'll publish it to whatever I'm going to put it in the junk folder that I just created. And then I have to add a tag. You can say workshop, whatever you want to do. So you're saving your map. And the key thing is you'll go with the default. You can go with the default, and then you just have to add one tag and click enter. So some name about it. And then we'll save the web map. Good. And so anybody that had trouble publishing that web map to be able to enter into the story map later on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to publish this and share it. I don't span my screen all the way. Good. And share map is down on the bottom. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to set it so it'll share with everybody. Save. It'll update information. Good. And then it'll say update sharing for the underlying folder. Some of you will have to do this later. I'm going to update sharing. Good. And now Control C. I'm going to copy the URL for this, and I'm going to put it in the chat, because then you can refer to it later. In place of building it yourself. Good. So now that we've created the web map, we can take another 5-minute break just to kind of decompress. We don't want to stress ourselves out or get exhausted here on this fine Friday afternoon. And let's come back at 2:37. And in the meantime, if you want to
Layla, if you want to share your screen.
if you want to share I'm going to stop sharing, and you can share your screen.
And show us the process you're trying.
Yeah, and see what's going on there.
Okay, so I was trying to do some troubleshooting while you were talking about the icons, so sorry I didn't listen to that. But I realized that I have two accounts. I have a public account and then I have my CDSS account. So I was logged into my public account. So I just logged into my CDSS account and I'm going to try again and I'll share my screen.
Okay.
Also, I don't have two monitors, sorry. So I'm a little frazzled right now with all the different things. So this is my CDSS account. And I
Okay.
guess I want Map Viewer because this is Map Viewer Classic.
Yes. They'll
Yes.
both do it, but yes.
Yes.
And
Okay,
Sean,
and
I
then
can
let's
shush it.
try again. I'll try the drag and drop. Already this looks different than what on my public account. So I think that this will probably work. Okay, yeah, I was not getting this before.
There you go.
So this is my public account only had this and it was wrong and bad. So now I know. We're doing default, right?
Yep, default,
Default.
and then
Default
default
on
again.
this.
And then
And
on this one, you'll have to go down to the bottom and switch to address 2.
address 2.
Yeah, there you go. And then next,
Okay.
give it a tag. It'll take a second.
What are we?
Training, whatever works for you. And then you'll have to
Okay.
click enter. You got to click enter after you type it.
Okay.
There you go. And then once this comes up, go over to the edit layer style, the little on the right hand side. Click on that. Oh, there you go.
Slow today.
And then fields or field plus, click that and click name, add, and then click on the style options and the pencil and switch that to 20 for the size at the top. There you go. That one. Good. And then done. And then done again.
Awesome.
And then you'll save and open.
Okay. Sorry, I have the zoom bar is like in the way of my screen.
I know how that goes.
I gotta move you so I can see. Save and open. There we go. Save as. PC ANR story map training.
There you go. And then you'll
Awesome.
have to
Okay,
add a tag.
I gotta move you again because now you're at the bottom. So
Now you'll have to add a tag still. They always require a tag for discoverability. Good. And then save. Very good.
thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Problem.
All right, I'm all caught up, right?
Yep. You're all set.
Excellent. Thank you.
Good.
Did I also get some assistance? Because when I am uploading the layer, I go through the whole thing. It takes forever to load, and then it gives me an error and says it can't add it. And I'm not sure why. I tried a couple different things, and it's not working. So let me share my. Wait, that's one thing. There you go.
Yeah, share your screen real quick.
Okay.
And Sean, if you want, you could always create a breakout room, and I could help Brianna as well.
Yeah, let's see what we got here though first.
So
Okay.
add layer from file. Let me drag it in. Default.
Then you'll have to go to address 2.
Address 2. It gives me the thing on the name, so I've been just putting a 2. Oh, now it's saying that
Now
already
you have to do a
exists.
3. Yeah.
Okay. And then Heading training. Watch it work this time now that everyone's watching.
Okay, so this is what I had the same problem with. Create a new folder.
And this relates to one of the chat window items was that they had two tables of the same name.
Yep.
When it creates a feature layer, it also uploads the CSV file that has potentially the same name, so you will see them both.
Yep. And then when you create add to new map, then you should be good. Hopefully.
Yes.
Good. Looks like you're good.
Let's hope, because it would go through this and then it would be creating layer for a while. Oh, it didn't give me the error this time.
You're set.
Okay, I don't know what was going on with all that, but it's working now. And then I'm supposed to do
Here, just real quick, you don't have to go too many steps. Just edit layer style. Click on the style options.
Oh.
You can do that too, but style options, they don't have to be different colors. And then click on the pencil. And then just change the size to maybe 30.
Oh, not 130.
Yeah, just 30. Oops, still 130.
Hello?
Nope, still likes that one in there. 30.
Yeah, it really doesn't.
Why it won't?
What? What is it doing? Hold on, let's.
That's odd.
I don't know what it's doing, but I'm just gonna do it manually.
There you go. That's
It's
good
like-
enough. And then done. Good. And then save and publish. And I'm going to get going for, yeah, save as.
Save as. Yep. Okay.
And then give it a tag and a name like story map or something. Yeah. So it'll pop up. It'll be really intuitive when you bring it up. And good, you're set.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
I don't know what was going on, but it's working now.
Glad that we're able to work these out here. Good.
Yeah.
And I'm going to share my screen now.
All right, hang on. I'm trying to get the thing back open.
Yeah. If you guys are, I'm not sure who, I need help on the location settings tab. Mine is showing me only longitude and latitude. It's not showing me all of the drop down that it showed
Okay,
on your screen.
let me create a group breakout.
Hey, Sean, I'm making a group right now.
Oh, you are? Okay, good.
Yeah, and I will invite both Barb and Estefania, and I can hopefully help you guys really quickly.
Good. And just note again, we're going to dive into some style options here right off the bat. If you don't have the style option set up the way we do, you can always, it won't hurt anything. You'll be able to add all your stuff and create your story map anyways. It'll just have a little different style than what we'll be working on.
Okay.
So your final products will look different, but you can always go back to the video and see how to change your style later. Good.
Okay.
And thanks, Shane. Good. So now let's do story map building. And the way we do that is we're going to go up to that little cluster of 9 dots at the top right-hand corner. Click on that and click on the story maps option. Good. And this is where I'm going to depart slightly from the directions. And part of the reason for the departure is because I found in the past, looking back at previous videos of recordings, is that if I jump straight into building the story map, folks that are like hung up a little bit right now will miss stuff that's more important than setting up the style. Not that setting up your style themes is not important, but it's not like critical to actually building the map. It's just how it's going to be laid out in the background. But it is really neat if you're working in an organization and really want to get kind of like a standardized theme that you'll work with. And in this case, we're going to go with a theme that's very commonly seen in California Agriculture as a publication that UCNR publishes monthly. So we're going to use a theme that we helped design for that, or we coordinated with their publications group on. So what we'll do to start with, we'll go down to themes. That's on the top left corner box. You'll see at the bottom, the 4th option down, and click on themes. And we're going to create a new theme. So I'll create new theme, top right-hand corner. And so the first option that you'll see over there, Summit, we'll just click select is the first right below summit. Select. And now this is where we're going to need to start working with our real estate a little different on our screen. So what I'll do is I will reduce this down a bit. And I'm going to move it over to the right-hand side of my screen, kind of the top right, as you can see. And on the left side of my screen, I'm going to get the directions, the exercise directions that I've been cruising through pretty much from memory up to this point. And on those directions, I am going to scroll down to page. We are now at the top of page 30. Well, actually, we skip it. This is slightly out of order. We're going to go down to the top of page 15 or the bottom of page 14. Good. So we're going to start creating like a UCANR communications theme or replicating what we have used in our organization. Here, just real quick, I'm going to go to the participants and make sure everyone's muted. Good. So we're going to be at the top of page, what is this? Yeah, page 14 is where we're jumping into this. So we're going to get just slightly out of order. So when the folks come back from the chat room, they're not going to be missing critical stuff. Not that.
Sean, can you just show us one more time? You started from scratch, right?
Yeah. So what I did here, I'm going to back up.
Yeah.
So once you have your story map builder app up, you'll go down to the fourth option down, themes. You know, click on that. And then we're going to go up to new theme is the top right-hand corner. Click on that. And it's launching the theme builder. And then click select under summit. It's going to be default. And that's where we're at.
What if you don't have a themes tab? I have the other three, but I do not have a themes tab.
Another organizational account issue, I take it. Huh,
I'm through UC, I'm through Cal, so I imagined it would be pretty similar, but I don't seem to have that tab.
Shoot. Then you'll probably just have to follow along with this part, but don't worry. Again, this is one of the reasons why I'm doing this part slightly out of order is because it's good to know about, and I did it earlier on my own, and it took like 5-10 minutes for me to go through this quickly just to set a theme up. But you can just watch for now, and then we'll come back to building the story map in a moment.
And I will say with a lot of Esri products, if your text size is blown up in your window on your browser, they make like little scroll down menus. So sometimes on these menus, if you hover and then scroll down, they'll appear. It's weird, but that's how they adapt to different monitor sizes.
Right. If not, you can just watch and then we'll come back because this is, again, it's not critical, but it'll create a result that looks like the story map that we'll be working toward like this. It's going to have that same effect as by setting the theme here.
It didn't have the scroll, but when I went to full screen, it showed up. So I found it now.
Got it.
So fun. Cool. Great.
Sweet.
Glad you could find it.
Good. So now we're going to go down. And so on the directions, this is where the copying and pasting kicks in. There's hex codes as our color code that is for display for each of these. And to make it easy to see in your directions, you should see the hex codes in red. And so the first one under 5.7, this is going to be the accent color. So this will be just Control C and go back to your colors, and we'll click the drop down. And if you scroll down, you'll see a drop down under accent color, and click that drop down, and then we'll Control V to paste in that hex code. And then once you click off, what you'll see is then the accent color will be displayed in the right-hand side so you can see how it is changed. So if you follow me, so I have the directions over to the far left. And again, I am on page 14 under 5.7. There's the hex code I just copied and then moved over to this under colors. I went down until I got to accent color on the drop down and I pasted that hex code in. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the two optional accent colors. So the first one, color 1, I'll highlight over and all the way over it, Control C, go back to my theme building tool, and I will do under the accent color here, the first one that you see. Oop, I got to make sure I get the hashtag in there too, Control V, and it'll give us like a yellowish orange color. If I click off and then go down to color 2, Control C, and then the second optional accent color, Control V. It'll give us a light blue color, and click off of that. Good. So you can see how once you have established colors that you could, and you can build it once you say for your organization, you find out what your color theme is or get a color theme that you really like, that you'll see how you can save this. And what happens then is if you want to make one story map this month and one 6 months from now, you can refer back to the same theme and create a new story map, but with your already like nicely laid out template of themes or the theme template you use. Now we'll do the same thing for typography. So now on the top of page 15 of the exercise directions, Control C of that typography red hex code. We'll go back to the theme builder, and under the drop down from typography, so the little arrow, you click on that, scroll down, and next to title and headings, there's the Avenir Next World. That's fine. We'll click the drop down next to that and paste in that hex code there, which will be another blue. Then we can click off of it, click on the dark part of the scene, and we'll see it appear. Now, just as kind of a comment, if you want to find thematic colors that go together, there's a neat web resource called Color Brewer 2 that you can go to find the hex code combinations for various colors. Good. Now we're going to expand the button drop down, and we're going to, and actually, if I go down to buttons, we'll go down to the second option is the one that we'll want here. It gives it kind of a rounded edge. It's the most professional looking of them, in my opinion. But we can click on the button option. Again, you can see how if you aren't going through this theme section, then you'd be fine. The defaults are okay, but they're just not maybe what you want.
Sean, there is a question in the chat about what's your recommendation or test for color blindness?
Oh, that's a great point. So if your color blindness in that color brewer noted before here, middle of page 15, this inside a color brewer, I'll click on it and bring it up just so you can see. Oops, I meant to bring it up, not to copy it. It'll pop up. There's colorblind safe color options that you can click to show only. And so that's one way that you can work around color blindness. You can also do what's called a squint test but that's a little bit hard to do right here because you need to have it actively up on your map screen. But you could, once you have a map, if you squint and the right contrast still pops out then that helps determine what it would look like for at least be differentiable for someone that's colorblind. But yeah, that's a good question. Good. So let's go down. Where were we at? So we were under quotes. So quotes is the next one that we'll be doing. Copy the hex code. So this is 510. Control C, the red hex code. Go back over to your theme builder, and then you'll do the drop down for quotes. And then we'll click on use custom color and the drop down there, and we can paste in that another replication of that orangish color for quotes. Then click off. Scroll down a little bit further. So we're going to set our separator option is we're going to pick the 3 diamonds. We're going to change the color of that. So we'll under 511, top of page 16, Control C of that hex code. Go over to separators and drop down. Click the 3 diamonds. Use custom color. And then the drop down and paste in that hex code. Is everybody following along with this okay? Once you get the hang of it, it's really easy, but I know that it's like when it's being explained and you're trying to follow through, this might seem kind of fast. I want to make sure I'm not going too quick. And I can't really look at my chat and do this at the same time because then there's too many things open. Let me double check the chat though. Good.
Nothing new for a little bit.
Good. Thank you. Good. So then we got our separator color set up. And then congratulations, we have a theme. We're going to go up. Let's see, we're to call this the UCANR communications theme. So I'm going to Control C. That's the top of page 14. And we can put that in the untitled theme at the top, Control V. But I've done this a whole bunch of times, so I'm going to call this 14. You can just have the default. It's fine. Like so, UCNR communications is the theme we're doing. Automatically it saves as you go. So you see at the top, it says saved or saving, but that doesn't mean that you can use it yet. You need to publish it first. So go up to the right-hand top corner of your screen and click publish. So you see the little blue option at the top after you've given it a title. Click publish. Good. And now we'll click publish one more time. Why they make you push it twice, I don't know, but there you go. It gets published. And now we're going to go back, but don't do the back button, the web browser back button. We're going to use the little teeny arrow that's below it. So it says go to theme. So right above, not the browser back button, but the right next to publish, that little arrow back where it says, if you hover over, it says go to themes, click on that back button. And this will bring us back to where we can start building our story map. Good. So we got a nice hour to build the story map out. Click on stories as the top option that we have. And we are going to go over to the top, over to the right, and create story from scratch. Good. So now we're going to do a little shifting of our screens around, move it around a little bit. I like to do is we're not going to be referring to the same directions anymore. So we can move this over the top of that screen on the side and even scrunch it down a little bit. Oops, until it's not too small. It's hopefully so it fits over here to the left-hand side is what I kind of prefer. And we're going to bring up the Word document on the right-hand side. So go down to your file browser and open up the UCNR story map visualization and organizational map, or document rather. And we'll move that over to the right-hand side of the screen. Let me check to make sure that there's no one in the breakout rooms really quick. Good. Wait a minute. Not joined. Okay, good.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is that document file supposed to be in Chinese? Because mine is.
No. I don't know how your computer did that actually.
Let me try opening it a different way.
All right. I'll give you a second to open that because this is going to be kind of key. This is where all the magic happens. And when I say magic, what I really mean is tons of copying and pasting. And again, I try to think of a different way of doing this that wouldn't include copy and pasting, but 3-hour workshop would be 3 days if we had to write all our stuff out on our own and build a neat story map that has all of the kind of the neat build from scratch elements that I wanted to be able to include in this training. Good. So while we're doing that, I meant if you want to, you can bring up the story map to refer to, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm going to bring up my, oops, I don't need this up. I need my story map app on the left-hand side of my screen. So this is what you should be looking at. Good. And I will continue. So how this is going to work is we're just going to go through this table on the left-hand side, one line at a time, and just copy and paste in here. And once you start getting the hang of it, if you want to, you can go ahead further, but it might not necessarily be advisable in some cases because there are going to be little kind of nuance / glitches that you'll have to contend with. So what I'll do is I'll go over the top of the title and Control C, or right click and then copy, but Control C is faster generally. Control C, and then we'll go over onto the title, the story title, right click, and you can see paste as plain text, or you can do Shift Control C. Here's the issue though, is that I have done this one so many times that I can't just publish the same one again. So I'm gonna have to do a 14 on mine, but you don't do that. I'm just putting it, and I know that I can't even put a space because I'll use up too many characters. So I'll just leave it like that for now. Yours will look normal with just the copy and paste in there. And then we're going to set oops, actually, you know what? I just thought of one other thing. Before we continue beyond that point, we got to bring in a design. This is what it's going to look like for those of you that that had to miss the style, the design building portion. It's going to look like this, but for those of us that went through the workflow of putting together the UCANR theme that we replicated, we can go click on the design button at the top of the screen, and you'll have a number of these that pop up. What we're going to want to use is the far right, the one that says full, and click on that. And we're going to scroll down a little bit, toggle on the navigation. So again, cover. So we clicked on design at the top of the screen. We clicked on full as the third one over under cover. Toggle on the radial button for navigation. And then we're going to browse our themes. So under theme, go down, click on browse themes, and the most recent one that you created, in my case, was the UCANR Communications 14. We'll click on that. It's going to be the one we select. And then finally, we're going to put in a logo. So we'll upload a logo. Click on upload logo. It'll automatically default to one of the last places I went. You might have to navigate, in your case, go to your PC, your C drive, your story map workshop exercise. I have other stuff from building the participant exercise stuff earlier, but navigate to your workshop media folder. And inside of there, you'll see logo. And click on that and click open. So then you have a logo at the dropped in. Good. And once you have that, you can also put in the logos, a URL to the logo. So you can, and I think that is actually in the directions. You could copy and paste whatever site. So we might search for UCNR. Click on this. This is another way to do this. Oh, geez, internet's slow. There we go. And just copy that. It's also in the directions somewhere, but we're going to I'm going to click this. And if you miss this part, it doesn't matter. Because what I'll go down to logo, link, Control V, and just add that logo link in there. So if anyone happens to click on the logo in the web map, then it'll bring them to UCANR. Then leave the rest of the defaults as they are. And we will exit out of the design. Just make sure I don't have to save anything. I know I'm pretty sure I don't. Nope, it's all good. And then we'll just X to get out of it. So now the theme setting is established. So back to our Word document. So we added in the title. Now let's insert a photo for the background behind the title. And how we do that is there's this little change the palette appearance button. Oops. And excuse me, up above that, add cover image or video. So we'll click on that at the very top. And this is where we'll go back down to click on the window file navigation, click to workshop media. And this is where we go to title image. So you'll see title image. These should be alphabetical. Click and drag that on. And click add. Good. So now I'll reduce down that and go back to my Word document. And I will put in a subtitle. So you can see again how we're just going to go one line to the next. So we'll add a subtitle, Control C, go underneath the Research Center, Control V, and it'll automatically put it in as a subtitle format because it's the only format it comes in as. And then we're going to do one more thing. We're going to do the options at the top, properties, and just the note that you can put in an alternative text. In the case we will add in alternative text later on, but for now we won't do it. The reason for this, though, is if someone is using a screen reader, say to comply with ADA regulations that makes you, like, say, someone colorblind, or if they're working off of like a smartphone and you can't see like that background image, then it'll give an alternative text that's available to describe the image that's behind there. Good. And then we'll just click save on that one. And then there's also the more options, click the more options, and that's where you can see that you can replace an image. Good. So it looks like everyone's doing pretty well so far. I know there's a lot we're covering here, but the next you'll see it'll start to feel maybe slightly redundant in copying and pasting, but then you will see how a story map comes together once you have all of the elements that you want. And those elements being what's described in this table here. Before we do that, let's just adjust this a little bit, the title screen. And the way we do that is we're going to click on the Change Panel Appearance button at the bottom, and let's set it to position itself horizontally. The rest of the defaults are good, but that'll make it just a little bit nicer. And then to make it look like the other screen that we have, or the example that we referred to earlier. Good. Now we'll start adding in these pieces of the story map. Below our title screen, so we already put in the title, we put in the subtitle, we're going to put in a heading. And that's on the document, the fourth one down. So under heading, we'll Control C or copy background of UCNR's rec system on the Word document, and we'll go over and press the plus sign and add text. You can right click and press paste as plain text. The reason why I do that is because sometimes when you're copying and pasting text from the Word document, it gets messed up if it's trying to carry over formatting or something like that, or indentations or dots and all that kind of thing. We'll see how we have to deal with the bullet points in a little bit, but putting it in as plain text alleviates issues that folks will have. But then you still have to set it as a title, so it's a heading. So what we'll do is we'll go over the top of it and drag over the top so it's all the way highlighted. And then under the drop down where it says paragraph as a default, we'll click heading 1. So whenever it says over on the table heading, that's referring to heading 1. If it's heading 2, it's heading 2, but heading just refers to heading 1. Now we'll do a subheading. So who are we? So background UCNR rec system, and who are we? We'll control C. So now I'm referring to the Word document. Heading 2, who are we? Control C of who are we? And we'll add that in by pressing the plus sign on the story map builder. Again, text, right click, paste as plain text, go over the top of it so it's highlighted, and then do the drop down next to paragraph and click heading 2. So you follow that. We go, whenever you copy and you do a plus, text, paste it in, and then you always have to go over it and then click the options to be able to change it to the heading that you want. When they originally started doing this, you could set the heading and then paste it in there as plain text, and it worked. That doesn't seem to be the case. It stopped. That was only for a short period of time, and then they made it not quite as user-friendly, and they never changed it after that. But it's okay. It works. Now we're going to put in a paragraph text. And how we do that is we go over to the table. You can see under text, simple text, we're going to highlight all the way from Research and Extension Centers, RECs, all the way up to the top, the University of California Agriculture and Natural Resource Division. Cover all of this on the right-hand side of the text. Control C, plus, text. And then in this case, we just can do Control V because the default is the standard paragraph text. But you see it sometimes will not, it'll create a gap, a long gap between if there's a space, that's where the formatting, see how the formatting changes over. If you would have done plain text, that wouldn't have happened. So we'll have to Control X. Underneath this, Shift right, click a couple times, Shift Enter, and then right click and paste as plain text. Then it's all in the same, like it's spaced correctly. You follow me on that one?
Mhm.
So we just copy and paste it, get it in there so we have the nice space. Shift Enter will get you down to the right spot. And now let's add in a hyperlink for the Research and Extension Centers. This is pretty simple. We go over to the Word document and we can see at the bottom right-hand corner of this text box, we highlight over there, it says HTTP rex ucnr.edu with the slash marks. And we'll Control C that. And then we'll highlight over the top of the Research and Extension Center recs and go to the chain link, select web page, Control V to paste it in there, and then apply. And now there's a hyperlink associated with that. Good. Give people time and chance to do that. Copy and paste, add the hyperlink by using the chain link, and then put it in. Good. Now let's do a quote. So again, this is, I said, it's redundant, but there's like a bunch of different, we're adding in elements, but the workflow to do so, as you'll see, is extremely similar over and over again. A quote now, this is a little bit more tricky sometimes. Actually, no, I was looking at the next one below that. The quote is not that tricky. We'll go over, highlight that again in the Word document, Control C, do a plus sign, text box, right click, paste as plain text. We'll highlight over the top of it again. So it's all the way highlighted. Drop down under paragraph, and we're going to do quote is the last option that's available. Now you can see why we adjusted the themes early on, because it gives that kind of that neat, again, California agriculture sort of look to it. We won't worry about the add quote source optional. That could be added in there if you wanted to. Then it's just a matter of clicking and then typing it in. We won't do that right now. Good. So let's add some more text paragraph. But on this one, even though it's all within the same box here, we're going to treat these as two different additions. And so we'll highlight over for where it says centers or a focal point down to supports projects involving. And we'll control C and just copy the top part of that, because we'll want to copy the bullet pointed area separately. So we'll go in here and click plus and add text. Right click, paste as plain text. And you can see there, it looks like there's a gap maybe above this. And one way you can do that is, oh, nope, we didn't want to do that. Luckily, there's an undo button now at the top left. There used to not be. It says beta even. So we can have that as a separate text box right here. Or yeah, text area here. Now let's add the bullet points. So we added in the text, the centers, our focal point for community participation. Now let's do the bullet points, but here's the issue. If we copy and paste this with bullet points from here, even if we paste this plain text, it will still carry over the bullet points. So there'll be bullet points and then more bullet points, and we don't want that. So what we'll do instead is on the Word document, part of the reason why we include this as a Word document and not a PDF or otherwise, is that we can easily edit and then undo. So we'll go over to county-based operation or cooperative extension academics, and then just click down and delete each of the bullet points. See what I'm doing is I just put my cursor there and then I just click delete, 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 delete until I get rid of all of the bullet points. I have them there in this document for reference to know that we want to put bullet points in, but we have to delete them to be able to properly add them into the story map. This does remind me of one thing that I wish that they would somehow fix someday or add to it, is the ability to create indentation into your story maps, which would make it a lot easier for converting something like, say, the presentation that Maggie provided earlier, where you have Google Slides or PowerPoint or something to that effect that has indentation, and to be able to move it over into this, but indentation is not practical as far as I can tell. But for now, so we get rid of those bullet points, Control C. Again, we're going to do a plus sign and a text box. Right click, paste as plain text. But you'll see they're all clumped together, so there's no returns or whatever. But we can refer to this, so it's county-based, campus-based, and then the three researchers. So county-based and then campus. Oh, excuse me. First, we get a highlight over the top of this. Getting ahead of myself here. Highlight over the top, select bullet list. But there's only one bullet. That's why I was looking over here to see the county-based, campus-based. So once we have added a bullet, then we can go to campus-based and then click enter. Then find researchers, enter. Go to the next researchers, enter. And then the last researchers, enter. And then you have bullets for each one of these. I'll let you all try to work that out. And sometimes it takes a second for folks to get the hang of that. So copy these from the Word document without the bullets, plain text, and then highlight over the top of it, select bullet list, and then enter after where it says campus-based, researchers, researchers, and researchers. Meanwhile, I'll undo my bullet points on my document, so it's like that the next time I teach this. Good. Now let's add in a photo. That's something we'll commonly do. And here what we'll do is we'll click the plus sign this time, and instead of doing text, we will go with image is down by the bottom near the bottom. Click on image, and this is where we drag and drop again. So we go down to the file browser, and I believe this one we want veggies, and drag and drop that in. And click add. I'll reduce this down a little bit. Go back to the photo where it says here. I mentioned earlier about alternative text that we would come back to it, and this is where we come back to it. So there's an alternative text. Again, this is for like ADA, like compliance, for screen readers, that kind of thing. What we can do is we can copy over where it says right after alternative text, copy over that products cultivated by UCANR's research and extension, and Control C. Now we'll go to hover over this. Just really quick, we can click on the medium so it makes it kind of larger. It's not really large. I don't know why it says medium. And then we'll go over to the options, the little gear. And under options, we can switch to properties. And that's where we can Control V to add in the alternative text. So I'll do that workflow one more time just so you can see. I went to the gear, the options, went to properties, and then I pasted in this text to the alternative text here. And then we click save. Good. And then we don't need a caption to go along with that. This is kind of just like a decorative separator, really, image separator. Let's go down to another heading though. So the heading, we're going to go about Kearney Rec, Control C. Do the plus sign, do a text again. Right click, paste this plain text, hover over the top of it, and select heading 1. So about Kearney Rec. Heading 2 is going to be location. So we'll right click, or excuse me, drag over, Control C over location 2. So you see how I'll go from the Word document to the story map builder, Word document to story map builder. So I'll copy and paste the location plus text, right click, paste as plain text, and hover over the top of this or drag over it and select heading 2. Good. For some reason, it looks like I'm kind of awfully large space between that and the one before. So I'm going to click highlight before it and then back it up. Oh, and there it went back one level. Now I have to do it again. Once in a while, it glitches like that, and it gets kind of like a little extra space between them. If there is, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Now we'll do paragraph text. We're on the next one down on the Word document, Control C, plus text, right click, paste as plain text, and then we have a paragraph. Now let's add in a map. We didn't make that map for nothing earlier, right? I mean, everything so far we've been putting in all this like nice text and visuals and so forth, but this is a story map, right? So let's add in a map that we'll refer to. And what we'll do is at the bottom of this, we'll add a plus and select map. By default, it'll go to the last map that you created. So we can select the one that we added here. And it'll load. And then click save. Sounds like someone's having an issue. We all good?
I think
Okay,
we're good. Nothing in the chat.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I can't load the map, I think, because I used your link rather than having it in my own account.
Oh, okay, so if it wasn't in your account, so another alternative, let's see, I'll do this as a really quick aside. Let's see, how do we go about that? We would, let me see if I can add a map that's my, and you're not in my organization.
I am.
I think Barb's in, are you?
Yeah.
Oh, so if not, what we can do is search, because I shared the web map earlier, if you recall, for everybody. And so if you search for UCANR Story Map Workshop under search, that will hopefully get you to that map. Try that out. So
I'll see
where
if I
you,
can find it and try to paste the URL too, but it'll take.
yeah, the URL, but if you
Well, I
search,
have it open on another tab, but it's not showing up in the add map.
okay, so what we can do then is go over here and search for UCANR.
It did that, and it didn't come up.
And it doesn't come up.
No.
And oh, that's because I'm looking in my content. You'll have to go to either my organization
Hmm.
or public content. So my organization is the one that I have it published to.
There's always another tab.
Yep. Always another tab. So try that. If you type in UCNR story map. You got it?
There are a whole bunch of them in there.
Yeah, there should be. All right, good. So they're good. And then then I can X out of this because I don't need to add another map on top of the map that I already have. So there, you should hopefully have something like this. But what we're talking about here, recall, is we're about Kearney Rec and the location, but we see all of the recs here. I happen to know that Kearney Rec is, or Kearney Research and Extension Center, or Agriculture Research and Extension Center, is right below Fresno, this little orange dot in my screen, if you can see that at the top of this triangle. And this view is just too large because we're going to want to add some associated text with the map. So what we'll do is we'll hover over. So on the top left option at the top of the map, you'll see float left and click on that. So it'll make the map go up in the top left-hand corner. It's also zoomed totally inappropriately for being able to look at just Kearney Rec. So what we can do is there's a couple things. One, you can go to edit, and this will bring you to where you can edit it in ArcGIS, but you can also zoom into it here. So if you needed to change like the symbology or whatever of the map, you would edit it in ArcGIS and it'll jump you back to the original map. We don't need to do that right now. We'll save time. But what we do want to do is zoom in so we have some form of reference. Fresno is a good reference. So we'll leave it about this zoom level, if you can see Fresno and then the Kearney Research and Extension Center red orange dot, and then click save. And see, now you see it pops up where you have just the framed in there. Underneath, so there's going to be a caption right below it, and we could put in the care locations. That's Kearney Agriculture Research and Extension Center. Control C. So this is under map, like again in the Word document right next to map where it says caption. And we'll copy that. Control C. And then right underneath the map, we'll drag over the top of what the existing UCNR story map workshop and Control V. It only lets you put in one kind of text, so you don't have to do plain text there. Good. We can also put in alternative text, which we'll skip right now, but it's there if you need it. because that is if someone was looking at this and you wanted to add in alternative text, you can do the options again and then put in the alternative text, but we won't worry about it right now. Save a second of time. But we will want to add in a heading next to it. So we'll say research at CARE. So that under heading 2, Control C. And then we'll go over and hover right next to the map where the plus sign is on the top right-hand corner of the map. Click the plus sign and add text. Right-click, add as plain text. You'll notice that for some reason it always jumps you down on this one. Is a weird glitch. But if we click right next to the research at CARE, backspace, it'll bring it up to the top. Hover over the top of it, highlight it, and select heading 2. Good. As it states here. Now, right below that, we'll add in some paragraph text. Control C. So we'll add another text box below it. Right click, plain text, and there we go. Now we're going to actually get to the fun part for the last 20 minutes or so.
We did have one question about whether you
Yes.
deleted the other 2 dots on the map, but I believe you just zoomed in on the extent, right?
Yeah, I just zoomed in on the extent. And the way I did that is I just went to the pencil. I didn't delete them. All I did is I used the zoom to the point where you just didn't see them like that. And then I click save. Good. So now we're going to add in some other really cool map elements. And this next one is called a sidecar. And to do this, what we'll go is we'll go down below. Yeah. We'll do the plus sign underneath. And we actually might have to, let's see, go all the way down and do sidecar. Click docked. This is the default is the one that you want. So I'm going to back up and do that one more time for everybody to see. Click the plus sign below the last thing you worked on. Scroll all the way down to the bottom, and then sidecar is the second to last option in the immersive. We'll go with the default docked and save. And then you see the sidecar appear down on the bottom. And sidecar refers to something where you add a map or a media to the right, and then continue your story to the left. And with that, on the left side, we will go over CARE from above. So now I'm back on the Word document where it says sidecar. CARE from above, Control C. Do the plus sign and then text. Right click as plain text. And then I'll highlight over the top of that and make that heading 2. Good. Right underneath that, we will then add all these bullet points, which by the way, they will need to delete the bullets again. So under sidecar, you see bullet, there's really 2. Drone operations at CARE, delete that bullet point, then go down to this interactive image, delete that bullet point. Then what I might suggest is put your cursor at the beginning of the drone operations option. So right at the beginning, scroll down to the end, press shift, and then click to select all of it. That way, dragging over the top of the tall, narrow part's kind of hard. And then Control C, add the text below. Enter text here. Right click, paste as plain text. And now we'll have to highlight over the top of this to turn it into bullet points by doing the select of the paragraph and bullet list. But now we have to manually go in and select before this interactive and press enter to create a new bullet point for it. Now we're going to add in an embedded slide here, or slide media, and that's over on the Word document. Just a little tip: don't accidentally copy the embedded word. You need to start with the HTTPS and highlight over the top of all of this, and Control C. We'll go back over onto the story map and then add. Embedded is second to the last option, at least on my screen. And inside there, we'll just paste in that embedded interactive asset that the Andy Lyons developed for us, and click add.
Cool.
It shouldn't take
Question
very
about
long.
formatting the text in the sidecar on the left-hand side. Is it always
Yes.
kind of centered, or?
Yeah, it's just standardized the way that it goes. You can't adjust margins or anything like that. It's kind of been one of my pet peeves for a while.
Yeah, Esri's strength templates, weakness
Yeah,
templates.
yeah. It's nice that they template it. It's also a curse sometimes. Good. Let's go down and we're going to add one more sidecar. There's actually 3 options in here. I'm not going to cover the third option. It's actually just an add-on, but it slows everything down because it takes a while to upload a video. But we'll just put in one more sidecar just so you can see how the sidecar works. And what we do then, once we have one in, we'll just click the plus sign, a new slide, and those will create a new sidecar option. And again, we'll go over to the Word document, drag over the top of greenhouse operations, click Control C, back to your sidecar, click the plus sign, add text, right click, and plain text. We'll cover over the top of that and make it title 2 or heading 2. Go back over to your Word document, and then the one bullet point, we'll get rid of that bullet. Drag over the top of, oops, too much. I don't want all of it. I just want that one section there. You can see. Control C. We actually have tried to adjust the columns. I forget what the reason was why we have it so narrow like this, but there was a reason. So went with the spacing. I know it's kind of funky, but it works. Control C, and we'll add that text below the greenhouse operations. Add text. Right click, plain text. And that we will make a bullet again. Highlight over the top of it. Set a paragraph. Select bullet list. Good. And now let's add in an image. And the image is the greenhouse PNG. And the way we do that, again, same thing. We click the add, image or file, go down to our file browser and bring it up. And in alphabetical order, greenhouse is third one over from the top. We'll just drag and drop that on and click add. There you go. In the directions, there it calls for putting in a video that's not even related to Kearney, but I just wanted to have a video option here also. But we'll skip this because I want to make sure that we get done in a nice, clean amount of time. I always put extra stuff in workshops just so in the directions, just for future reference if someone wants to add them in there. But there's really nothing significantly different about dragging and dropping a video in versus an image, except for a video takes a couple minutes for it to upload. Good. Now, let's scroll down past our sidecar, and we're going to continue our story with the text below. So we're past all of this, the larger blocks. We go down to page 4, near the top. It says to learn more about Kearney agriculture rec, use the button below, Control C to select that. And we're going to put that in as just plain text. So we'll add a text box again, right click and paste as plain text. And this is where we add in our buttons, the one that we set in the design earlier on. And so the next one over is going to be button, visit Kearney's website. So I'm going to highlight over this and Control C right now, because the next step, when we do the plus sign, the second option down is button. Click a button, and then you just Control V to add the text in. And then we need to add the URL. So right below that, go over the top of the HTTP care ucanr.edu, Control C. Go over to the button, and then there's the plus or the pencil, and we're going to edit. And that's where we Control V to add in the URL. Just as a note, when you're building something where you might be asking for donations or gifts, this is a good way to direct someone to a survey to add gifts or like donations to some kind of cause. It also could be a way that you could direct people to say registrations for a webinar, whatever the case is, however you want to build whatever your objective is for the button. But one thing you do have to remember is once you've put that in, you have to click enter to make it stick. If you don't click enter, it won't. If you click off of it, it won't save it. Now we'll add in a separator. We didn't adjust that for nothing earlier. We'll do the plus. Separator is the third one down, and that's just simply just pops it in there. There's nothing more to do about that. And we're going to add one more heading, and that's extra resources. So on the Word document, we can Control C, extra resources, do a plus sign, text, right click, paste as plain text. Seems like it's spaced down a little ways further than I'd want. So I'm going to do nope, that's as far as where it can go. I'll highlight over the top of it and select heading 1. You notice each time I put in a heading 1, they appear as a bookmarked option at the top. So that was one of the reasons why we toggled on the radial button for navigation in the design earlier on. Just as a side note. Good, extra resources. Heading 2, other rec locations. So we'll copy other rec locations from the Word document. Do the plus sign, text, right click, add as plain text, and then we'll highlight over the top of it and select heading 2. Good. And then we have one more little section of text. Below that, recs are located across the state of California. Control C. And below that, plus text, right click, add as plain text. Now we're going to add a tour, a map tour. The thing is we have 9 recs, but it gets really redundant if we do this for all 8. We've already done Kearney, so we're going to skip that. But we don't need to do 9 of these. That's crazy. It just gets too redundant for a workshop. But we want to get the hang of a map tour, so we'll just do 2 of them. And how we do that is under the plus sign. We'll click plus. Zoom all the way down to the very, very bottom is map tour. So the plus sign, the very, very bottom option, map tour, and select that. We're going to start from scratch. We're going to go with map focus, not media focus, but map focused. And click save. So the second one over and click save. And with this, it's pretty simple. We're going to add an image first. That's the first one. We'll work from the left to the right. The add image or video. go to your browser, and we'll go with Desert Rec, just the first one of the options. Drag and drop it on there and click add. So what I did is you notice I did the map tour, map based, and then we added the text, added the Desert Rec from the media. And then if we refer back to our Word document, the title is going to be Desert Rec. So we Control C that. This time we don't have to worry about plain text. It'll only accept one version of it in here. And then for the description, we'll cover visit DREC website, Control C. And that's going to be the description here. Now we need a map to refer to. And we have our handy dandy map that we've worked with before. So what we'll do is click plus sign, edit. And the select base map is defaulted to the human geography, which is not really useful for what we're doing. But if we click on that, we can browse to more maps. And assuming that you can either search for it like you did before under organization or public content, or you can select the last one you used and it'll zoom to it. Now I happen to know that DREC is Desert Rec is the very bottom one of these. So I'll save this. Oh, here, when I add in the location, that's when we'll do the zoom. I scroll up a little bit and there says add location is underneath. So we might have to roll up. So you see how once the map is in here, it's going to be scrolled all like panned across all of California. Go down to add location. And then we'll zoom in on Desert Rec down by Holtville. This is probably a good extent. And to just click in the center of that. And then we'll have to select use the current zoom level that the selection here to set what we're seeing on the screen. And then click save. If we do this with one more, then you'll get the effect of a tour map. And the way we do that again is we're going to go down to the plus sign. So the plus sign here, new slide. Let's do it for South Coast Rec. So we'll add an image or video. Go down to our media. Alphabetical order, South Coast Rec is near the bottom. Drag and drop that in. Click add. Good. Now we have the title. Now we go back to our Word document. The title is just that, South Coast Rec. Control C. Control V. Add in as the title. The description. The goal is to visit the South Coast Rec's website. Control C. And then Control V, or plain text. Oh, one thing I forgot to do earlier is that on the DREC is to add in the hyperlink. You can skip it for DREC, but for right now, what we do is go over in the table, the HTTP SCREC, Control C, and then we highlight over the top of this, and then you use the chain link to add the web page. And then apply. There's no enter on this one. So then it's highlighted. We could have done the same thing to DREC. You could use the copy and paste the DREC URL. Oops, not all of it. Control C.
Oh.
And then use the chain link to add it in. Might have to scroll a little bit to add the web page. And then apply. Good. Now let's do one last little element. It's so we could do this redundantly over and over and over again for all 9 recs, but we don't need to do that. Instead, let's finish up the story map. So we have any questions and converse.
There's
Yes.
been a few questions throughout. Do you think just exiting and re-entering this portion just to show people how to get in might be helpful? One person said they missed the radial button. One person said the image shows up to the side instead of over the map. Or we can go back to that at the end.
Yeah, we're literally like 2 minutes from being done. And then that's what the point of having a little like good some minutes at the end of the workshop to be able to answer those questions.
Thanks, Sean.
Good. Oh, excellent. So at the very end, what we can do is we can add in a separator just to finish it off. Add credits. These can all just be plain text, honestly. You can decide for yourself with a little creativity what you'd want to do. Do the plain text. Created by, right click. Then you do the same thing, the next one, plain text. And then one more. Content. That could be, you can add any more on there. Oops. You can also do it as just an extension. You can go onto the end of it, shift, return, and then add in. And that'd be good. So then you have your credits at the very end. So with that said, now what we would do is, so once you have it all put together like this, I would publish, and then I'll just second, we'll come back to our those questions. And once you have it all set, we go up to the top where view publish options, click publish. This is where you set the sharing options. If you remember all the way back to where I said we can set groups. If I clicked organization, then I could set one of my groups if I wanted to just share it that way. Otherwise, I can share it with everyone, and then it's open to anyone whatsoever, and then publish. If there's an issue with any of the underlying layers, like this one is not shared to everybody, I can say, yes, share this item, and it'll update that in the background. So as an underlying shareable item. And now you have this QR code, or you can copy the link. And with this link, you could put it in an iframe, say on Site Builder or whatever else you might be using. Or you can go to another web browser just to test it. Control V and add in the link. Click enter. And in theory, my story map should come up. Now, if you email that link to your mom, your boss, your colleagues, whoever you want, in theory, then you should have a story map that looks a bit like this. It's very similar to what we had before. Oh, we forgot to add in the South Coast Rec adjustment. So what I could do if I had something I saw that was wrong, or that it was that I didn't want, I could go back to my story map and then edit story. Go all the way down to the bottom. We forgot to add in a location. So I click add location on this one. Zoom out a little bit. Zoom back in. It's the one over here near Los Angeles. Click in the center of that. And then use the current map view level and then save. And then publish one more time. And then publish. And then when I go to the link, and the link shouldn't have changed, I go to this and I refresh. And I scroll down. You can see then Desert Rick will zoom us there. And then South Coast, it'll jump us over to South Coast. And then we're dialed. Good. So let's go back to those questions that we had here in the last few minutes. And before we do that, in case anyone else is leaving, let's Priyanka, would you mind throwing a link to the evaluation survey in the chat? And just note, everybody, you'll receive an evaluation survey also via email. We really, really appreciate it if you fill that out. It shows that we're providing a good service, hopefully, but also it gives us good feedback that we do take very seriously and try to improve our workshops each time. Make little tweaks so the next time around it's even better. And with that said, oh, and then there's office hours. Don't forget about that. I put the link earlier on in the chat if you want to refer back to that and find the office hours. And that otherwise you can just search UCANR-IGIS, and office hours are under the resources tab. Good. So let's go to the questions. So
I just put the
who's
link in the
first?
chat window for the
Great.
evaluation.
So let's see. What was the first question? I'm going to go to the chat.
Let's
Good.
go with, how do you center the button?
Okay.
How do you center a button? Yeah.
Let's go back to editor, edit this again. Let's see, center. Oh, the center the button on the for the ad. Yes. I don't believe the oh wait. There is, I believe. Let me see. I'm gonna go to design. No. I might be able to adjust that. I've never tried to adjust the centering of the button. It might not be possible, but it's a good question. I know where to find out though. So instead, I'm going to go back to, so since this is already saved and published, I can go back, the back button, go to themes. I'm using the most recent published theme. I'll go into the theme. I'll go down to buttons. And I'm afraid it does not give an option to center it. I didn't think it did, but I wanted to double check before I said that it didn't. So I'm afraid the button's going to stay where it's at. It's this way. It's part of the template. So what other questions do we have? Okay. Oh, miss the radial button. Okay. So where that's at, I go back. I'm going to go to my stories. I go to the one we just made. The radial button, I have to click on the top and edit story. So there's a 3 dots to get back into the editing the story frame. Design, to have the navigation buttons, this is the radial button I was referring to, the navigation. So under design, in the first one down is then what's available. You turn that on, and then and what that does is it gives these bookmarks. So if I click on one, it jumps me to that section. Let's see, any other questions on here? If anybody wants to unmute and ask, go ahead.
We have one or a couple people having trouble with their web maps, and then in the sidecar formatting, I think. And then one person wanted to see you adding another location one more time.
Okay, we'll do that. Let's see. So I'll scroll down to the bottom. So there's in the sidecar. So what was the issue here? Or was it just in the tour?
One person's just has the background map. It doesn't have the rec locations on it. So they might have to go into their web map and turn it on. And then
Oh, okay. Yeah.
that seems like it's been resolved.
I did figure out how to do that one, but I can't figure out how to get it to zoom to the right place for
Okay, I'll show
each.
you. So on the tour, that is?
Yes.
Okay, so here, the way we do that is I'll add one more and we'll see how this works. So what I'll do is I'll do a plus sign, add one more. I'll go down to the Word document. Again, let's go to let's do one that's a ways away from the others. Let's go all the way up to, let's go to Intermountain, the last one on the list. So we'll go to add the image or video. Select over here, Intermountain, and drag and drop that media in. What the heck just happened? That's weird. Wait a minute. Browse your files or drag and drop. So Intermountain. Oh, worked that time. And then add. Good, it came in. Now I'll go back to my Word document. Put in the title. Control C. Control V. Then I'll do the visit the IREC website. Control C. And put that in the description. Control V. I'll put in the URL for it. Control C. Highlight over the top of it and do the chain link. Add web page. Control V and apply. And now we'll do add location. This is where you're probably getting hung up at. So we'll click add location and it'll bring up the map. We'll zoom in to the area we want here and then click on that. And this is the key thing is you got to use the current zoom level. Select that before you click save. And so now when I publish this and publish, and it'll take a second. I'm going to go back to the one that I pasted in here and I'll refresh it. Now, as I roll down through the map, you can see it's got the whole state initially, but then when I scroll over DREC, then it zooms in to DREC. Then I scroll over to South Coast, it scrolls over to the next location. And the same thing with Intermountain, then it zooms up to the northern part of the state. Does that answer your question?
Yes. The only issue that I had is when I zoomed in, like you just have to know which dot is which because no
That's
data
true,
shows
yeah.
up on the dots.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Okay.
Yes. That's one of those things that you could adjust that with pop-ups in your titles that are included built into your when you go back to your web map, and I'll show you how you can do that really quick. If I go back over here, oh, dang it, I gotta go back. So, okay, if I was back in my web map here, which I still have open in my background, you don't have to do this, but you can go down to, let's see, if I select that and where's it at? That's not what I want. Properties. Actually, expand this maybe. Labels, there it is. It was right there. So add label class, and then you select the name, and you can see how they show up. It makes it cluttery looking on here, so it's not in the directions. But now that has labels, you can see if I zoom in, it shows Intermountain, the description there.
Cool. Thanks.
Sure.
That's helpful.
All right, with that, I guess we've had a good workshop. I hope everybody got what they needed out of this and hope you all have a fantastic weekend. Thank you all for coming, and we look forward to seeing you next time.